From Social Prosperity Partners, this is Community Catalysts. Welcome to Community Catalysts, the podcast that examines the qualities of community leadership and the many paths and forms it can take. I'm your host, Matt Lehrman. Midway along the 2-hour drive between Phoenix and Tucson lies Casa Grande, a city whose name honors the nearby Casa Grande ruins built and inhabited by Native American groups around the year 1350. These ruins were likely a central hub for the Hohokam people, showcasing their advanced civilization long before Casa Grande was settled by people of European descent. Incorporated in 1915, the city of Casa Grande traces its history back to its settlement in 1879, spurred by the Arizona mining boom and the route of the Southern Pacific Railroad. In real estate, there's a famous saying that the three most important factors in determining the desirability of a property are location, 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 and Casa Grande epitomizes this maxim. Positioned at the confluence of the I-10, the I-8, and the Union Pacific's main rail line, Casa Grande's location is an enviable advantage that very much reflects its historic past. Today, over 70,000 residents, along with some 25,000 winter visitors affectionately known as snowbirds, call Casa Grande home. I am thrilled to be joined by Casa Grande's Mayor, Craig McFarland, to talk about the community he serves and the lessons he's learned over his nearly 8 years in office, highlighted by the recent announcement of a significant federal investment to expand a critical 26-mile stretch of I-10, marking a milestone in regional connectivity. Mayor Craig McFarland, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Matt. I don't think I need to say anything because I think you said it all.
I tried to get it all right there up front. But Mayor, before we talk about anything else, I need to know your position on a really critical issue in your community. I just said Casa Grande, but I know there are a lot of people who pronounce the name of your city differently. How do you pronounce the name of the city?
Officially, Casa Grande. So it's Spanish. And you roll the R, but a lot of the locals just say Casa Grande. There's no E on it. It's just Casa Grande. So if you want to be lazy, you just say Casa Grande. If you want to work at it, you say Casa Grande.
Mayor, we have a lot of listeners who don't know anything about your community. So I wonder if I could ask you just to start off by giving us a little bit of a virtual tour. If you were going to take us out and show us some of the places that make it wonderful to be in Casa Grande, where are 2 or 3 of the places that you might show us?
Well, it depends on what you want to do. If you're looking for a job, then it's our industrial park. We have 2 of them. One very large, growing industrial area, which is where our Lucid is located, and Frito-Lay and Abbott, and I could talk. There's another 23 that I could name. But if you're looking for something to do, we have CG Mountain. We've got 17 miles of bike and walking trails on our CG Mountain. We have about 17 parks in the city of Casa Grande. We have the city owns a golf course. So that's where I hang out. I like to golf.
Mayor, let's talk about you for a moment. I understand you're born and raised in California.
Correct.
I would just like to have you explain to us how it came to be that you settled in Casa Grande.
I graduated from Cal State University of Fresno, which is also where I graduated from high school. But as a kid, I moved around the state. So we lived in San Francisco area and also Los Angeles area, and then ended up back in my high school years in Fresno, which is where I was born. Went to Fresno State, met my wife there, and graduated, worked in a local grocery business for about a year after I graduated, and finally decided I needed to do something with the degree that I acquired. And so I applied with Anheuser-Busch, the brewery, for 2 different jobs down in Los Angeles. One was at their branch operation, the other was in their training facility. And I ended up getting offered for both. And I took the training facility because it looked like more fun. And I could learn more about the company because I was going to teach people about the company. So it was a great introduction into a Fortune 50 company and learning about it from the ground up, including how beer is made to how we market it. And I got to speak at universities, teaching marketing classes. I got to go around and teach people about beer. It was fun. And, who didn't like talking about beer? So it was a dream job.
You made a lot of friends.
I did.
Right?
I did.
Everyone wants to be friends with the person who's representing the beer company.
Yeah, especially when you have an expense account and you can buy people beers, right? So it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed working for the company. They treated me well. They moved me 10 times.
So you retired, you said, in 2015. 2 months later, you said you were recruited to run for mayor. You ran, you won. I think you were sworn in, December of 2016? Is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, and now you're in what I understand is your final year as mayor because you're term limited as of the end of this December.
Correct. Yeah, it's 8 years, 4 2-year terms.
In what way did your career in sales management and operations in the beverage industry, how did that prepare you well for serving as mayor?
Not knowing really what the job of mayor entails, looking at it more from the perspective of an outsider, wanting to give back to my community, and knowing business, being in customer service, being in the marketing and sales side of the business, it really gave me a new perspective because the city had not had what I would call a national business person in charge. It had some small business owners, it had teachers, it's had engineers, so at least in recent times, all the mayors I know, which then there's about 5 of them that I know, they fit into that category. So I was really the first one to come in with this outsider perspective as well. I had viewed, 10 other communities that I had lived in besides as a younger person. I'm just talking as a working adult, the different communities that I had lived in, everything from Los Angeles to St. Louis to Seattle and Denver and all parts in between. And so I had these perspectives of customer service. And when I got here, the city was struggling. We were trying to attract businesses and attract people to come and build because we had one builder. So Larry Raines was brand new. He just became city manager. He'd been with the city for a while, but he'd been their finance director. He had been the deputy city manager, and now he was in charge. So he was the guy. So I grabbed him and I said, Larry, we got to get our dog and pony show, and we got to go out and visit. And we went and we called on every developer and every builder in Arizona, and literally took our show up to Phoenix and met with them all, gave them our spiel, talked to them about the things that we have, the location. So it was really kind of the beginning of this whole metamorphosis of expansion and industrial expansion, how building houses. It's kind of one of those things, you build it, they will come. And so that's what happened. And it just kind of took off.
Let me make sure I'm hearing you right. I think I just heard you say there were 3 really essential skills that you brought to the position that served you well: a knowledge of customer service, strategic planning, and salesmanship. The ability to get out and actually make the connections and bring attention to people who you wanted to bring it. Have I got that right?
Right on the nail head.
So now I'm going to flip the question around and ask you it in reverse. Reflecting back, and I want to see if you would be really candid with me here. What is something that you had to learn on the job, something that your prior experience didn't or couldn't prepare you for when you became mayor?
Open meeting laws, public meetings, public comment, COVID, riots, police and fire. Those are the areas that I am a novice on. I mean, I'm certainly much more adept today after being around it for these 7.5 years. But I don't think anything prepares you for something like COVID. I don't care who you are. And then just the different personalities of people and your citizens, right? These are the people who elect you, and you have to try and listen to everyone, because everyone technically has a vote and a voice. Well, they actually absolutely have a vote.
Absolutely.
And some of them use their voice more than others. And so it's a balancing act. And what is probably one of the hardest things is doing the right thing for the right reason, and making sure that you may not agree with it personally, but if it's what's right for the community, then that's how you have to vote.
It sounds like what you're saying is it's the public engagement side of this that couldn't be known ahead of time, right? So when you say do the right thing for the right reason, that's great. But then you have to explain to people why you've done the right thing and the right reason, and be willing to absorb whatever blowback might come to you as a result.
That's the hard part. I always tell people that municipal government is really where the rubber meets the road. It's where government actually touches and affects the people the most.
Mayor, one last question on this. If you could send a message to yourself back in time, maybe to, just December of 2016, just before you were going to take the oath of office, if you were going to send a message back in time, what would you tell yourself?
Well, I probably wouldn't tell myself to change anything that we did, because I think we as a team have done a lot of really good things. But I would tell myself, delegate more. I didn't do a very good job of delegating, and I should have. I should have divided up some of the committees and the boards and all of these groups that I'm part of, and spread that out amongst some of my fellow council members.
Is the delegating, is it to get more done? Is it to get the council members more involved and feeling like they're actually contributing in a more significant way? Or was it in part about giving you some more time to get back out onto the golf course?
That would have been nice. Well, that wasn't an intention, but the first two were. So giving them a little more responsibility, spreading out the work so that we could maybe do a little more, and keep them involved. I mean, I've done in the last couple of years when we did the State of the City, I had them all be a part of it. And typically when you go to States of the City, it's just the mayor. He or she get up there and they expound, about all the things they've done or all the things that the city's doing. But I like to include the council, because they're a part of it. They're the ones, their vote counts the same as mine.
If you don't mind, I want to spend just an extra minute on this topic, because what you've just said, I've heard reflected now with interviews with several other mayors in kind of the same way. And I'm wondering, the idea that they wish that earlier in their terms they had involved their council members in particular more, because they had council members who felt that the mayor was trying to hog all the glory, take all the credit. But I wonder, go back to when you first got into office. Was it just that you didn't trust the other council members? Did you just think that you could just do it all on your own, or that it was the job of the mayor to do it?
It's probably a combination of a couple things. I think it's number one, you don't know what you don't know, right? So you don't know all the organizations and associations and commissions and boards and things that you can be on and you can be active in. And so I think that not knowing or not having a list, right? If I had a list of everything that the mayor is supposed to be at, which I'm going to try and do for my next counterpart, is I'm going to give them this list. These are things you should be involved in. And if I was them, I'd take a look at that and go, okay, I'm going to give this one to Lisa, and I'm going to give that one to Jeff, and I'm going to give that one to, so you go down the list and offer them up to your counterparts and say, hey, do any of you want to be, take this on? Because I'll point you in the right direction and get you signed up, and then you have to attend. You gotta be at the meetings, because if you're not at the table, then your voice won't be heard.
I mentioned earlier in the introduction the confluence of the I-10, the I-8, and the Union Pacific Railroad. But I gather in Casa Grande, there's another confluence that you're at the center of. It's the confluence of transportation, infrastructure, and technology. And all of that goes to feeding economic development. And Casa Grande, it seems to me, is all about economic development. And I wonder if you could kind of take us through just the last 8 years of your service here. What was the situation when you were sworn into office, and where are we today in Casa Grande? What have you helped the city accomplish?
Well, and I certainly am not going to take credit for all the economic development that's happened in the city of Casa Grande. It's been going on here for 50 years. I mean, some of the earlier, the Donovan Kramer Sr., for example, he bought the newspaper here probably 50 years ago, and he and a group of people kind of formed this first organization, and that was an economic development group, and they went out and they solicited, some of these companies, and one of the earlier companies is Hexcel, and Hexcel they make honeycomb, and every airplane, every drone, anything that flies, their product is in it. And so, like I said, they've been here for 50 years, and they were one of the first. Then there was Frito-Lay, then there was Abbott Labs, and then there's, all these companies came in. Then we kind of hit 2008 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12.
Recession years.
Yes, and so nothing was happening. I came in 16. Things were just starting to happen. We still didn't have any housing going on. Maricopa's going crazy, the city of Maricopa. And I can't get a single builder to come over and sniff at Casa Grande. So we looked at reasons why. Well, your impact fees are too high. The cost for us to do business, because part of your development requirement is that I have to underwrite all 1,200 home sites, where then I said, okay, well, how can we change that? And they said, well, maybe if I did it in stages. So phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So I do 300 homes at a time. And I go, I only need to now bond those 300, not 1,200. So that saves me money on the bonding expense. Or now we lower the impact fee. So on a per house basis, the impact fee is cut by a third. And so we established all this. We went and talked to them. And that's what we got from those meetings that I told you we did, the dog and pony show, that Larry and I came back with. And we said, okay, we heard what you said. So now let's make some changes.
Right. But this is an example of your customer service. This is about being responsive to the needs of the people who you're trying to serve.
Correct. And at the same time, making sure that we maintain our roads, make sure that we are prepared for water treatment expansion. We're seeing expansions in some of our current plant facilities. We're seeing new facilities coming in that support the Taiwan semiconductor manufacturer.
I saw also that you're getting a new Kohler.
Yes, the Kohler plant is done. It's they just got their occupancy permit, and they're kind of keying up their equipment. And by this summer, they expect to hire about 150 new employees, and by next summer, probably about 450 total.
Let's talk about that big project that's going on right now with the I-10 and what it took to make that happen. I interviewed a mayor on the podcast recently, the mayor of Birmingham, Michigan, who said that cities and towns are responsible not just for doing big things, but for doing big things that are necessary, unpopular, and expensive. And so you've just helped accomplish something really big. Last January, it was announced that Arizona received a $95 million federal grant to cover part of what I understand is a $1 billion project to expand a 26-mile stretch of the I-10, as you mentioned earlier, through the Gila River Indian community to 3 lanes in each direction. And presently, it's only 2 lanes. It's the only section of the I-10 that was still 2 lanes. And so help us understand, why was that such an important priority to Casa Grande?
With all of our industry coming in, and this industry is here to support a lot of business that's in Phoenix. So there's a huge amount of truck traffic they're going between Casa Grande and Phoenix. And it just became a choke point. I could see it early on when I first took office. Traffic was starting to get heavier. And then now we have some people commuting in, so that adds more traffic. And now it's really gotten bad. It's probably the most dangerous section of I-10 in Arizona. It is certainly the busiest. That's only 2 lanes, and it wasn't on ADOT's radar 7 years ago when I started, 7.5. It wasn't even on the 5-year plan. It wasn't in the 10-year plan. So I literally showed up at ADOT board meetings, at their state board meetings, like every month, and was just sitting there going, I-10, I-10, I-10 between Phoenix and Tucson, or Casa Grande and Phoenix. Finally, it got on their 10-year plan, and now it's on the 5-year plan, and now it's actually a priority. So it took about 5 or 6 years for it to become a priority, and I was able to get them to at least put the trucks in the right lane. Of course, the trucks don't pay any attention to it. And the fact that we actually did finally raise the billion, it's $1.1 billion for this 26-mile section.
Was the city of Casa Grande the primary driver of the need for that expansion? Who were your allies in pushing for this?
Well, we had Pinal County, we had the Gila River Indian Community, Governor Lewis, Casa Grande, and also the city of Chandler. So Mayor Hardicke and I actually co-chaired a widening coalition that for the last 3 or 4 years we concentrated. We raised some money to lobby. We raised some money then to go to DC, also to lobby the state legislature. State legislature was very generous and has actually given us most of the money. So it's coming from between MAG, the Maricopa area governments, the state legislature, and the federal. The feds only chipped in. I say only, it's not a drop in the bucket, but it's only $95 million out of $1 billion. So it's like 1/10, and it's their road. It's a federal highway.
Again, go back to what it took to make this a priority. You had to somehow forge a partnership, or at least common priority, among federal, state, and local levels of government.
And tribal, yeah.
And tribal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just getting out and talking to people. Again, my salesmanship, or my sales background. I would say I thought I was a pretty good salesman, but anyway. But being able to talk to people and being able to listen, right? I mean, you have 2 of these and 1 of these, and so you try and listen as much as you talk. But getting everybody to be on the same page and establishing it as a priority. And in the end, every legislator said, "Yeah, we got to fix 10. We got to fix I-10." So it was on everybody's mind, and so everybody was pushing in the same direction. So it took about 3 or 4 years of legislative giving to get it up there. 1 year we got 300 million. 1 year we're at 50 million. Another year we got another 150 million, and we got some from MAG, from our Maricopa governments, and we got some from the feds. So it was really a collaborative effort. Now we have the money. The widening has begun.
Mayor, if I ask you what's the key strategies, the key approaches that you used going into this project, does it start with persistence?
Yes, squeaky wheel gets the grease.
I want to ask you about a practical lesson that our audience of current and aspiring community leaders might take from your experience in getting the approval for the I-10 to be widened. And you've already talked about the value of persistence. What's the practical lesson that an aspiring leader should take from that? Really
just having a vision and then following your vision and making everyone aware of what your vision is. I have a vision for transportation system in Pinal County. I'm not going to give up on that, even though it may not ultimately, in the end, happen in my lifetime. But I want to have an impact on it. I want to have a say in the process. And you can't have a say in the process if you don't come to the table and you don't let your voice be heard. and give your opinion. But the opinion has to be backed by a vision that you want for your community, whether it's the county, whether it's the state, whether it's your city or your town. It's what is your vision for that area? What are the needs for your community?
What happens when you encounter someone who says no?
Well, my usual reaction is that when you obviously don't know what I was asking. So let me rephrase it. I don't take no very well for an answer. I'm very competitive. And so if I have something stuck in my head that it's the right thing to do, I don't give up on it very easily. I may alter my direction based on, input and based on listening to people, but typically I don't give up on the vision.
What advice would you give to a mayor taking office for the first time who, like you, serves a community with some grand need or aspiration that's going to require a major partnership with other local, state, federal, tribal entities? What would be helpful for them to know as they begin to take on such a challenge?
Well, I would hope that a mayor or someone running to become a mayor already has some sort of idea or vision that they might have and or understand the needs of their community. If they don't understand the needs of their community before they're running for mayor, they shouldn't be running for mayor. So it's not a job for the faint at heart. It's not a job that you come into because you have an agenda. The agenda should be your community and that vision. If your roads are falling apart, if you don't have jobs for your people, then you should know that, and that should be something that somebody should aspire to try and help improve. You can't blow everything up and start over. You have to kind of take it one bite at a time, and maybe there's 5 or 6 bites that you're working on at the same time, but that's okay because maybe it's needed.
Mayor, the last question I want to ask. We live in divisive times at the federal level, at the state level, and even in cities and towns across the country. What gives you hope for the future?
Municipalities and cities and towns continue to listen to their people and continue to work with their communities to make their communities better. Because the federal government isn't going to do it. The state's not going to do it. Not to be on the negative side, but I hope the state just stays out of our business because right now they're in the middle of our business. And so I think that cities and towns are strong enough that we can push back on our legislators. We just need to get with our legislators and have them understand what cities and towns need. The beauty about municipalities is most, all but one in Arizona, are nonpartisan. So we don't have that same amount of divisiveness. So there is hope. There is hope that local communities, because that's where you as a citizen, you can go to your city council meeting. You can at least watch it on TV because most of them are now broadcast. You can even watch it later when it's convenient for you. But it's really the last place that you have a citizen has a true voice. And so I hope that continues. I think it will. I don't think that communities will give that up. And I think, if somebody goes too far, like the legislature goes too far, I think the citizens will let them know. And that's where the power lies.
Mayor Craig McFarland, it was wonderful to speak with you. Thank you for sharing your experiences and insights. I am going to stop by. We're going to go have lunch together the next time I'm coming through Casa Grande.
Lunch would be great. And thank you, Matt. I appreciate your insights as well.
Again, my sincere thanks and appreciation to Mayor Craig McFarland of Casa Grande, Arizona. This episode was produced by Kerry Lengel and edited by Nick Living the Dream Tantillo. Jenna Maisel is our production assistant. Our executive producer is John Little. I'm Matt Lehrman of Social Prosperity Partners. If you have a question, comment, or story to share, reach me at 602-688-2724 or podcast at socialprosperity.us. I'd love to hear from you. We'll be back soon with another Community Catalyst.